It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
We're going to make an important announcement today regarding the Bible and the Ten Commandments. My staff has been looking at Oklahoma statute. We've been looking at Oklahoma academic standards.
I find it so incredibly interesting that the Superintendent, Ryan Walters, actually mentioned about the state of education in Oklahoma. And the main reason why I say that is largely that according to the data, it seems to know that Oklahoma ranks number 49 in terms of education. And sadly, that's the case for like the vast majority of the red states, largely because the states that actually exist in the Bible Belt are also similar race in terms of education, in terms of teenage pregnancy, and other different issues across the whole entire country. Maybe it's me, but it seems as though that there's actually a direct correlation between the religiosity of a state and how poor it actually is in comparison to much more secular states.
My staff has been looking at Oklahoma statute. We've been looking at Oklahoma academic standards. And it's crystal clear to us that in the Oklahoma academic standards, under Title 70, multiple occasions, the Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of this country.
I don't think it's necessarily fair to classify a Bible as a historical documentation because in the Catholic tradition, there are at least 73 different books for the case of the Bible, and for the case of the Protestant tradition, there's at least 66 books for that particular case. And there are different genres within the Bible that we're talking about because some stories might be legend, some stories might be folklore, some story might be historical, and some stories might be allegorical. And so there's not a single book that we will say that the Bible is 100% historical because, again, it kind of depends on the genre of literature that we're basically talking about.
The Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of this country, to have a complete understanding of Western civilization.
This idea, this notion that Western civilization is solely because of Christianity is a complete lie. While there is no denying the fact that there are some direct Christian influences, for example, the idea of the hospital comes directly from Christianity. The idea, the notion of people wanting to rest on the Sunday, it comes directly from Christianity. The calendars that we also use, again, come directly from Christianity. The ideas of humanism, again, Christianity. So while it is true that there are some aspects in Western society that is largely influenced by Christianity, we also need to look at the fact that like a lot of stuff from ancient Greece also helped develop Western civilization. For example, the ideas of philosophy, the ideas of science, the ideas of logic, the ideas of these kind of things that we take for granted, all comes directly from the ancient Greeks. Even the ideas of Christianity itself is largely influenced by Greco-Roman thought because the idea of the logos comes directly from that particular time period. Many of the miracles that are assigned to Jesus Christ, like walking on water or turning water into wine or the resurrection or the empty tomb, again, these kind of stories also existed in Greco-Roman society prior to Christianity actually being there. And so while it's true that Western civilization got influenced directly from Christianity, Christianity itself got direct influence from Greco-Roman time period.
To have an understanding of the basis of our legal system.
Most of the Ten Commandments is not necessarily influential for our case of the legal system, largely because things such as thou shalt not make any graven images or the idea of I am the Lord your God and thou shalt not worship any other God before me go against the whole entire idea and notion of the First Amendment, because the First Amendment protects people's rights to worship any type of God that they want to, any type of religion they want to, as well as the fact for people like me to not worship any type of God whatsoever. So that's right there is not great. Now, when it comes down to the idea of loving your neighbor, it's not necessarily required by law to actually love your neighbor. It's entirely possible to love your neighbor, hate the guts of your neighbor, but don't cause conflict. So it's not necessarily illegal to go out your way to just hate your neighbor. When it comes down to working on the Sabbath, again, you can pretty much work on any day of the week. While it's true that most people rest on the Sabbath, it's not necessarily a requirement by law to rest on the Sabbath. And so many of these laws in the Ten Commandments are not necessarily influential for the legal system because it goes against the very constitution that the country was founded upon.
And it's frankly, when we're talking about the Bible, one of the most foundational documents used for the Constitution and the birth of our country.
This idea, this notion that the Bible was basically used as a founding point for the creation of the state is just so incredibly ahistorical and laughable. And the main reason why I say that is largely because the First Amendment literally says that Congress should not make an establishment of religion. It is not necessarily a requirement to use any type of religious text they actually run for office for the particular case of this country. When it comes down to Thomas Jefferson, for example, he specifically stated out loud that the First Amendment is meant to have the separation of church and state. When it comes down to the ideas of how the Founding Fathers felt about the ideas of Christianity, many of them were very much critical about the ideas that were actually taught during their time period. One of the most famous books out there is something that is known as The Age of Reason, in which Thomas Paine openly criticized the doctrines and the ideas of Christianity during his time period. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there were no religion in it, John Adams. Religious bondage shackles and liberates the mind and unfit for every noble enterprise. During almost 15 centuries has the legal establishment of Christianity been on trial.
We also find major points in history that refer to the Bible, that reference the Bible. We see multiple figures, whether we're talking about the Federalist Papers, constitutional conventional arguments, and Martin Luther King Jr., who use it as a tremendous impetus for the civil rights movement.
This claim is incredibly misleading, largely because it refers to a paper that was done by Donald S. Luss, which is called The Relative Influence of European Writers on Late 18th Century American Political Thought. Now, when it comes down to the claim that the Founding Fathers referred to the Bible for the federal papers, according to the study that he actually cited, more or less it referred to the Bible at least 0 times for the case of the Federalists. When it came down to the Anti-Federalists, only 9 times did it actually refer to the Bibles. And so this idea, this claim that the Federalist Papers actually referred to the Bible has no basis in history because, again, according to the own paper that he actually cited, it was like 0 times for the Federalists.
It is essential that our kids have an understanding of the Bible and its historical context. So we will be issuing a memo today that every school district will adhere to, which is that every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom.
I'm not necessarily against the idea of having the Bible in classroom. Have the Bible in classroom together with Mesopotamian mythology, with Norse mythology, and of course Greek mythology. That is to say that the Bible belongs in comparative religion or comparative mythology class. That's the only session in which it's actually okay to have the Bible in classrooms. But what do you guys think about my video? Tell me in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.